Good evening, good evening, good evening. A Better You Lifestyle Sunday night. And I am your host, Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks. And as you know, this is A Better You Lifestyle. Every Sunday at 8 o'clock, we put on a show regarding a better you lifestyle, how to create a better lifestyle for you, your family, your friends, the people you're associated with, all about creating a better you lifestyle. And we do that through physical, personal, and financial development. The show comes on every week, and every week we do a different general topic. And through that topic, we talk about various subjects under that topic. So, on the first week of every month, we talk about understanding your you. And understanding your you is all about how you can take the skills and abilities and specialized skills and abilities that you have and use those abilities to create a better opportunities for yourself, whether it's in jobs or employment or just career or social life or whatever the case may be, how to create better opportunities for yourself. The second week is called A Mother's Love. And a mother's love is basically the same thing as understanding your you, but it's all about how to work with our children, how to work with youth, how to help them to discover who they are, what their specialized skills and abilities are, and how to use those things and things that they enjoy to create opportunities to start businesses, to invest in the stock market, whatever the case may be, how to do better in school, how to do better in relationships, how to do better in conflict resolution, whatever the case may be. That's what we do under A Mother's Love, working with our children to help them to create a better lifestyle for themselves. On our third week, we do Financially You. And Financially You is all about financial literacy, how to create better finances for you, your family, your friends, whoever you're involved with, but specifically for you, how to create a better generational wealth or just wealth for yourself, not to get rich. This isn't a get rich quick scheme or anything like that. It's all about how to do things that's going to help you to get a better understanding and a better control of your finances and how to help them to grow and create a better lifestyle for yourself using the finances and the resources and the income that you have available to yourself. And that could be anywhere from investing, entrepreneurship, saving, real estate. I mean, it could be a number of different areas that we cover during that week. Then on our fourth week is making your house your home. And under making your house your home is basically about real estate. How to make your house your home. If you're a homeowner, a renter, a landlord, whatever the case may be, how to make the property or the properties that you own and operate, how to make them more like a home, how to maintain them, how to make them energy efficient, how to reduce the cost of utilities, how to purchase a home as a first time home buyer, how to deal with tenants as a landlord, as a tenant, how to deal with things regarding your landlord. So, I mean, there's so many different things that we are going to be doing. Yolanda, we're going to talk about stocks next week on Financially You. That'll be our third week. We'll do, send me a reminder and I'll do some things on stocks because stocks are a big thing right now that we want to get into because the stock market is down and this is a great time to get into it. And I've been talking about stocks the last couple of weeks on my page, talking about dividend stocks. So definitely we will do something with stocks next week on Financially You for a better you lifestyle. So tonight we're talking about, let's talk about the future of our Black boys. And I want to talk about that tonight. That wasn't what I planned on talking about earlier. I thought about a couple other ideas, but then this past week, I saw this flyer and it said, let's talk about the future of Black boys. And I went to the event to see what this event was all about because, as a lot of you may know, I do a number of different workshops. But one of the workshops that I do is called From Boys to Men. And From Boys to Men is a workshop geared towards working with young men, helping them to prepare for a better lifestyle, helping them to, it's called Preparing Young Men for Success and Not the Streets. That's our motto for the program. preparing young men for success and not the streets, because we have a lot of our young men who are, because of the way they're being treated in the schools and being treated in their homes, they end up in the streets and they end up getting involved in the streets, and eventually some end up going into the justice system and judicial system. So trying to help them to avoid those things and create a better lifestyle for themselves, where they can either start their own business, go to school, go to vocational training, whatever it is they can do to create a better lifestyle for themselves, where they're not turning to the streets to do things in the streets that's going to in an attempt to get finances and create some kind of financial income, and end up incarcerated or dealing with the justice system, or getting themselves hurt. So when I saw this flyer for let's talk about the future of Black boys, I already knew right there I was going to be there, because I wanted to see what the discussion was about. And because I know with my program, From Boys to Men, I see so many things going on in the schools that aren't being addressed, that there are programs available, and not just my program, but I do talk about my program, because what we do is we do physical, personal, and financial development. So with physical, we do hygiene and nutrition, which is a big issue in every school that I've gone to, every school or teachers that I've talked to at different schools, principals, different people that I've talked to. Hygiene and nutrition, especially hygiene for our young men, has always been a big issue. And you would think, because it's an issue, that they would address it. But instead, you find that they talk about it, and they talk about the students and allow them to be harassed and teased and other things by other students in the classroom, instead of finding ways to address that situation. And hygiene, and it's hard, especially with boys, because they don't want to be embarrassed, and you don't want to embarrass them, but you need to have some kind of resources or a program or a classroom set up where you can talk about these different things with young men to help them to address it. And so, just as a matter of fact, in December, the week of Christmas, I normally participate in the various activities with a community center here in Niagara Falls where I live. It's called The Connection. And at The Connection, I gave out hygiene kits. I created hygiene kits, and I took hygiene kits with toothbrushes and deodorant, shampoo, combs, and different things. And then I got donations of skull caps and shower gel and a number of other different things I got donated from different organizations. And I put them together, and I took them down there to that center. And you would be surprised that the first thing the center said to me was, "Thank you. Thank you. We really need these things, because a lot of these boys come into the program and they've been out playing basketball or running around in gym and those kind of things. And they come in here and either they don't know what to do, or they don't realize that they have, body odors, and they're not addressing it. And so this would be great." And I left them a lot of shot. I gave them about 25 bottles of big, tall, 32 bottles of shower gel. Those big bottles of shower gel. Each child can have to be either kept at the center, because they had also shower gel in the hygiene kits that I gave them. And I provide hygiene kits in all of my programs, not just with the boys, with all of my programs, with the girls, boys. When I'm doing financial literacy, I'm giving out hygiene kits, because again, our young people, they may know that they need this to do hygiene, but sometimes they aren't aware of how to address hygiene. So hygiene is a very big issue in all the schools. Every school that I talk to, they're the principals and the teachers and counselors, and even some of the kids are talking about hygiene. So, I mean, that is something that needs to be addressed when let's talk about the future of Black boys. Because if you don't get them on the page where they can't go to school and feel comfortable, where they're not hungry and they're not wearing dirty clothes and have a body odor, and they're so preoccupied with those things, learning takes a back seat. Learning takes a back seat, because they're frustrated. they're subconscious about kids teasing them and being teased, and because they can also smell or know that they have on the same clothes for a number of days, or they haven't washed, or they don't have a toothbrush, or they haven't brushed their teeth, all these kind of things, and these things are seen in the classroom, and you would think that it would be addressed. You would think that there would be programs, and I want, like I said, I want to talk about this meeting that I went to, because they had some questions, and I'm just going to kind of go through some of the questions that they asked people when they came to the room. They gave out a handout sheet, and one of the first questions they asked was, "Does your child enjoy school?" And I mean, this is a simple question. You would think, "Oh yeah, my kid likes school," or "My kid doesn't like school," or whatever the case may be, but if your child likes school, why do they like school? If your child doesn't like school, why don't they like school? I'm gonna tell you, I didn't like school, but the thing was, I didn't like school because I felt well, I didn't feel like I knew everything, but I just didn't like the schools that I went to. I'm not gonna say I didn't like school. I didn't like the schools that I went to, and when I finally got kicked out of the school that I didn't like and sent to another school, and saw it was a totally different environment, and the students there were totally different from the students were at the school where I was, I got more involved in the school, and I began to like school. So when people say, does your child like school? If they say no, then why don't they like school? What is it about school that they don't like? Because there may not actually be that they don't like school. There may be something going on in that school that's affecting that child, or that's bothering that child, where they don't want to be there. And a lot of times it could be hygiene, because somebody's teasing them. Nutrition, because they go to school and maybe they don't get a free lunch, or they get a free lunch, but then they don't have anything to eat once they get home. So now they're waiting until they get to school the next day to have their next meal, which could, again, hinder a child, because when they get home, they're not doing homework because they're busy trying to find something to eat, which could lead to, again, going out into the streets and doing things in the streets to try to get food. So that was one of the questions they asked. Then they asked, do you as a parent feel comfortable speaking to school staff, teachers, administrators, and do you feel valued? A lot of parents don't feel comfortable talking to teachers and staff, and a lot of them don't even go and talk to teachers and staff. A lot of them don't even, a lot of parents, and I fault the parents, I fault the teachers and staff, because a lot of times the parents won't go to school until it's time to graduate and find out their child's not graduating, and then they're upset. And they want to beat up the teacher, or, they want to beat up everybody in the building because their child not graduating and they've already planned a graduation party. But all along that school year, that child has been failing and not doing homework, and not being checked by the parent at home. Even if you don't understand the homework, if you look at, you can know, if they have homework, at least to look at it and see if it's done. Even if you don't understand what they're doing. And if you don't understand what they're doing, you can check it to make sure it's done, and then ask them questions about it and see if they can explain it to you. And if they can't explain it to you, that means that they're not really doing the homework and they're just filling it out just so you won't bother them. But then that's when you need to address it in the schools. But then when you go to the schools, how are you treated by those teachers and administrators in the schools? How do you present yourself in the school when you go into the school? Because if you come in there with an aggressive attitude or angry behavior, of course they're going to respond in a negative way to you. Of course they're going to call the police on you. Of course they're going to do everything they can to eventually remove your child from that school so you don't have to come back there. So how do you present yourself when you go into that school? And then when you do go in there, you present yourself in a decent manner, a proper manner, to address the concerns about what's going on with your child. How do the school and the administrators and the teachers respond to you? How do they treat you? Are they respectful? Are they, let me see, right? Okay. So I didn't know you were a teacher, Yolanda. So we got to talk about that. We have to have you come on the show one day and talk about what you see in the classroom and some things that parents and other people can do to work with their children at home, because that's a big factor. A lot of parents don't know how to work with their children at home. And sometimes it's because they may have been a teen parent and may not have completed school. And as a result of that, they may not be as on a level of education where they feel comfortable working with their student. So then, that's something maybe we can bring you on and have you address with us to talk about. But this is something that we have to look at both sides of that. How do the parents feel? Do they feel comfortable going in? And then when they do go in, if they do go in the right manner, how are they being treated? Are the staff and teachers and so forth being receptive to them and being cooperative and trying to actually address the needs of that child and how it can be addressed to work better in the school and at home with the parents, with parents' assistance? And then the third question, do you think Black boys are targeted and are more apt to be placed in special ed? Sitting behavior. And I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to read the whole thing, but then I'm going to come back through it because there's a couple points I want to talk about. Do you think Black boys are targeted, more apt to be placed in special ed, and citing behavior problems? How can we help as a community? Now, the first thing I want to talk about, do we think Black boys are targeted? And I'm going to refer to Jawanza Kunjufu, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, who is the person who I originally started studying to learn about the behaviors of Black boys and why Black boys go through a lot of the things that they go through in the school system and how the school system is set up to target Black boys. So yes, I do think they are targeted. As a matter of fact, if you study and you learn about, and a lot of these people who you hear talking about right brain learning and using visual aids and different things like that, a lot of that information came from Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. He's been doing this for a number of years. More social workers and in the schools. Okay, yeah, that's too. That could be done too. But what are they going to do? Do you think, Yolanda, do you think it will be more beneficial to have social workers and counselors or more programs uh, addressing boys mentoring programs right in the schools? Do you think, which one do you think probably would be more beneficial? A counselor or a social worker where they're normally not intervening with the student until there's a problem, or a program, or both? Okay, both. So then, yeah, so we could, but I think for myself, I think it would be more beneficial to have the programs. I mean, you still need to have social workers and counselors, but if you have those programs where you have mentoring programs in the schools, in every school, working with boys, working with girls, you can have joint programs, or you can have a boys program and a girls program. And then what that does is prevention. So it helps reduce a lot of issues that would be normally addressed by a counselor or a social worker, because at the point where they go to the counselor or social worker is when they become a problem, when the teachers are done with them and they're trying to actually get them out of the classroom. So they send them to either have them removed to go and giving them the label of ADHD or some other problem situation so they can remove them from the classroom. So I think for my stance, and like I said, because I do the programs, I think that using preventive maintenance of a program, and programs should be in every school. And I'm going to keep saying that, and I'm going to talk about why I think programs should be in every school. Who's this thing? Oh, thanks, Mike. But this is why I wanted to talk about this, because like I said, I do think boys are targeted. And I was going to go back to Jawanza Kunjufu. And one of the things Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu says, when you do your research, boys, the education system is closely observed by the prison system. And prison population and prison growth is based on the failure rate of third and fourth grade boys. That's how they determine if there's going to be an expansion or a greater need for prisons based on the levels of education and problems that boys in third and fourth and fifth grade are having. First, primarily third and fourth grade is where they start to look at it, because when you get to the third and fourth grade is when boys start to get more into the grades where they start to have to read and write. And of course, we know our boys normally fall behind in the reading levels and our writing skills, because we're not doing those things. We're not being encouraged to read and write and read books and things like that. Whereas I know girls, and I watched my sisters and different girls I know growing up, and they had journals. They were always reading books. They were always doing things that required either reading or writing in a journal or something like that. Boys don't do that. Boys were given shovels and little army men and footballs and basketball and go out to play. And so we fall behind in those skills. So the further we are behind in those skills, and as we go into the higher grade levels, the more frustrated our young men get. And they get frustrated because now you're expecting them to be able to read on a certain level, because you see what they say all the time. What reading level are they on? What writing level are they on? What math level? And there's always a level. And are they at grade level? So if they're already at third and fourth grade, not at grade level, how can they be at grade level when they get to seventh and eighth and ninth and 10th grade? By the time they get into the high school, some don't even go to high school. Some get into ninth and 10th grade and then drop out of high school because they're having so many problems, not only with just being in their homes and environment, but also because they're having problems in the classroom, learning comprehension, different things like that, reading, writing. And like I said, in my programs, and like I said, I talk about my programs because I love my programs. I love what I do with my programs. And as you see behind me, I have my workbooks. These workbooks are the books that we give out to the students, and it does all the things that we do in our program. But in the back of every single one of those books, except for the Black History book, and there's writing in that too, but there's journal pages, because I talked about earlier how girls are given journals and they're able to write down their thoughts and ideas and things like that. Well, in the programs that I do, we give the boys these books and we encourage them to write down their thoughts and ideas and things they want to do. But not only are they writing down their thoughts and ideas, it allows them to practice their handwriting, because their handwriting is so bad. Sometimes they can't even read, and then their spelling, all those things they have to work on, and they become embarrassed and reluctant to write or do any work or do any reading out loud. So then what they'll do is, if the teacher asks them a question or asks them to read something or something like that, what first thing they know is, because they know that they're having problems with reading and writing, the first thing they do is they act out. So the teacher either removes them from the classroom or stop asking them to do any reading in the classroom. And that saves them from the embarrassment of not being able to show, being able to show that they don't know how to read or they don't know how to write. And so what we do in my program, we do what Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu says and talks about, which is we do public speaking. So we do presentations in the classroom. We do oral presentations. We do audio books, and we do videotapes and movies. So this way we're doing things in the classroom where it takes that fear away from reading and writing, because now, as we know, if a kid hears a song that they like, they can recite that song back to you word for word, and maybe just listening to it once or twice, they'll know the words of that song. So if you show them a videotape or an audio book and you have them listening to that information, they know the information. They may not be able to write it down, but then when you ask them a question about what they heard, because they heard it and they know the information, they can recite it to you. That's why we do the public speaking. So instead of having them do a written test, sometimes you may have them do an oral presentation or an oral test, and asking them the questions, because they may not know how to write the answer, but they may know the answer, but just not know how to write it down. So we do things like that in our program. And so that's why when we talk about our boys targeted, they are targeted. because Dr. Jawanza Kujufu said it. At third and fourth grade, they're being looked at. Their levels of education are being looked at, and that's how they determine whether how far or how many prisons need to be expanded in that area, because they're looking at preparing room for those young men to come into prison or to the judicial system. What was the other part of that question? Are more students more apt to be placed in special ed? And that's what we're talking about. And that's what they were talking about at this meeting I went to, is that they were saying how these students who were acting out, and because, again, you got to remember, a lot of the teachers are white female teachers, not white male, white female teachers in the classroom. And one of the biggest issues with Black boys is the intimidation that white female teachers feel towards Black boys and Black men. So if you have an aggressive young Black boy in that classroom and he's acting out or raising his voice, because we as Black people, when we get together in a group, when we're talking, we're yelling at each other and raising our voice, and we don't even realize it because it's just our human nature and our natural behavior. When we're in our family gatherings, we'll get together and we'll be raising our voice and talking, everybody talking over each other and laughing loud. And so, of course, when a child gets excited in the classroom or bothered in the classroom, he's responding to the teacher. And what does he do? He's raising his voice because it's just a natural response that it comes from. And now the teacher becomes intimidated, feels threatened. And what does she want? She wants them out of the classroom. So how do they do that? They start to label them with different labels, from ADHD, special ed, or however you want to call it, behavioral problems, whatever the case may be, to eventually have them removed from the classroom and put into a special room where they don't have to feel threatened, where they're not fearful of that student. And that student could be just the sweetest student as you ever want to meet. But because, again, Black men and Black boys are intimidating to white women, especially white women teachers, it becomes an issue. And you see it and we know it, and a lot of people don't want to accept it or address it, but that's what one of the big issues are. And again, that's society. And how can we help as a community? How can we help as a community is to go to our school board meetings, go to our parent teacher meetings, go to those things and find out what your child is doing, what your child needs to be doing, and how the teachers in the school are helping or working to address those things that your child needs. But we have to go to, and I'm not a parent, and I actually told the group that I went to for this meeting that I was going to start coming to the school board meetings, because not because I don't have a student there, but actually I do have a student there because I do programs in various schools. And for me to go to these school board meetings would allow me to see what's being presented in these school board meetings for these students and the student futures of these students in the schools. And by being a part of these school board meetings, I can also, if I hear something that I agree with or that I have some concerns about, I can raise those concerns, because I think they allow you to speak at a certain time or whatever the case may be. I haven't been to one, but I told them I would start going to some. May not go to all of them, but I'm going to go to some school board meetings because I do want to address some things that I understand to be going on. Then the fourth question was, do you feel if Black history was taught or our children were exposed to Black history as part of American history on a daily basis, would it give our children a sense of importance? And I look at that two ways, because as you can see behind me, I've written the Black History book. I've written 4 Black History books. And I think Black history is very important in the schools. That's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because when I was in school, we did Black History Month. And so during Black History Month, what do we talk about? Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth. Those are the people we talk about. Nat Turner. And when I went away to college, graduated from high school and went away to college and graduated. And when I came out of college, I was working. One of my jobs was I was a substitute teacher. So I was making some extra money as a substitute teacher on my days off from my job that I got after college. And I went back to a school during Black History Month, and they were doing Black history. And who were they talking about? Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, Nat Turner. And I was like, wow, wait a minute. Those are the same people that they were talking about when I was in school. And those are the same people they were talking about before I even went to school. And it made me realize, if you think about where are all those people, that's how I decided to write this book and write This Week in Black History articles for the local paper called the Buffalo Challenger. I started looking at, I said, where are all the people that they're talking about other than Barack Obama? Where are all these Black people? Where are these people that they're talking about now? They're all dead. So when Black History Month comes and you talk about Black history and all you do is refer to slavery, and then you refer to people who are dead, what hope does that give to young Black children, especially young Black boys? What hope does that give to them to feel that, what is there to be excited about? You're hearing the same people every year, and all the people you're hearing about are dead people or slaves, and how slaves were treated. So do they benefit from that? No, they don't. So that's why I created that book. And it talks about Black history and talks about current people in Black history, people who have invented things, entrepreneurs, people who are entertainers, all different kinds of people are in the book. But the thing is, the goal shouldn't be put on, if you see that your school isn't providing Black history, you're going to say, well, since they're not doing it, nothing's going to be done. Why not do it yourself? Why not make it a family activity where you start studying Black history together? Start having your kids go on the internet, and every day they come out and everybody presents somebody from Black history or a subject on Black history, or once a week you do it for the whole year. Do Black history activities and events in the household. We shouldn't have to depend on the school just because if the school decides all of a sudden they don't want to teach your kid anymore. Well, you can say, oh, okay, they don't want to teach my kid, so we're just going to have some dumb kids. You're more than likely, you're going to find a way to either teach your kid at home. So why wouldn't you do the same thing if you feel that Black history is something that you want your child to know and be aware of, and be aware of positive Black history? Not just being a slave and learn about dead people, but learn about Black history as far as some of the inventions that Blacks have done in the past and how they benefit us today, and what came about from those initial inventions and what came after those inventions based on what those inventions were. I mean, doing any kind of thing you want to do with Black history to help your child to learn about their history and to create self-esteem for them, self-awareness, helping them to see if there's something, an activity or entertainment or sport that they enjoy, finding out people in history who are involved in that sport or that activity or that invention or skill that your child has, and have them learn about that person. So now they have something that they can follow, someone that they can emulate, someone they can say, okay, I want to be like Dr. So-and-so, or even somebody that's currently in that field, we're actually maybe be able to reach out to that person, email them, or go on LinkedIn or Facebook and see if that person has a page and follow that person, and allow your child to now have a mentor, a role model. Again, which goes back to mentoring programs in the schools. Mentoring programs in the schools where you're bringing in men, bringing in women, bringing in professionals, bringing in police officers, bringing in doctors, bringing in lawyers, so young people can see and talk about and find out more about these skills and what people do and what did it take and how did that person grow up prior to becoming what they are becoming. So again, we talk about these programs. Okay, I'm not even going to go to the last one. The fifth one was basically the same thing, which was about Black history. And do you think it'd be important to have Black history pictures and bulletin boards up in the school building? Again, if the school says we're not doing it, then what do? Just ignore it? Why not put them up in the home? Why not do your own research and put up your own pictures, put up your own bulletin board in your home? And so that way you have what it is you're saying is needed in the school. So when Black History Month comes, your child can go to school and maybe even create a album or a portfolio and go to school and share about Black history in his classroom or her classroom, because they'll have the information that they can share with not only the teacher who's refusing to do it, but with their classmates. So, I mean, that's no excuse that the schools don't want to do Black history, so you just don't do it and don't worry about it or just be upset about it. And so I want to talk about programs. And the reason why I want to talk about programs is because, especially with boys mentoring programs, a lot of people may not be aware, but President Barack Obama, before he left office, he set up what's called My Brother's Keeper program. And it's a grant program. And it's a program that's set up where it's automatically funded. Nobody can eliminate it or remove it. It's set up where it's a standalone program. It's called My Brother's Keeper. And My Brother's Keeper gives out anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million to schools, school districts, to implement boys mentoring programs for boys. $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million for mentoring programs for boys. If your school district doesn't have it, it's because they didn't apply for it. It's no, well, we didn't get it or we don't qualify. If your school district doesn't have it, it's because they did not feel it was important enough to address by applying for it and having mentoring programs in the schools in your school district, wherever you live, whatever city, whatever state, whatever county you live in. They have this funding available, and it's a federal program. So it's through federal government. Barack Obama set this up, and any school that has a risk of high-risk students or high-risk boys primarily, because it's a boys program, My Brother's Keeper. And My Brother's Keeper is all about finding ways through mentorship and networking with students and adults and community leaders and business people and so forth, like I was mentioning earlier, and mentoring these young men to encourage them to create a better lifestyle for themselves, to either go into college and they say go to college, but all kids aren't going to go to college. But even through a mentorship program, that kid might be encouraged to go to a vocational training and may have a skill that they could use to create a business or work on their own or work for someone in vocational training, plumbing, electrical, carpentry, sheet metal, all those kind of skills where they're paying big dollars to young people, and there's not enough people. There used to be a point where we were doing this during the early years, and then as they became more of a vocational skill and the big dollars started to become paid, the blacks were removed from a lot of these programs, and it made it difficult for them to get into the apprenticeships, because what did they do? They started implementing tests in order to be a part of the program. So you had to take a test and get a certain score. And what did I say earlier is a big problem with our young men, reading and writing. So if you implement a test where even though they may know how to do that work and know the skill, but now you're giving them a test where they have to read, and they could probably do whatever it is that they're reading, but to be able to read it and be able to write it down as to how to do it, they more than likely having problems to do that. So that's how they eliminate a lot of our young men. But what happened as a result of that, now these older men and who have been in these apprenticeships and been in these unions and, doing these vocational skills are dying off, and their kids and sons and daughters, they are not trying to go into those skills. So there's such a shortage of electricians and carpenters and plumbers and bricklayers and sheet metal people. So what happens is, because there's such a shortage, the price of everything goes up, because now you become a specialist in that skill. So wouldn't you want your child to be a specialist? If they say, I don't want to go to college, but I want to be a carpenter, I want to start my own carpentry business, or a handyman business, my own construction business, I want to be a bricklayer, I want to do drywall. And people don't realize drywall is a skill. There are people out there that's all they do is drywalling and get paid big dollars to be a drywaller. So, I mean, preparing our young men for success, mentoring programs, that's what the My Brother's Keeper program is all about. That's why it was created. And there is up to $1 million that they'll give you to, I think it's for that million goes for like three to 5 years. I'm not sure exactly how long it goes, but you can check into it. But My Brother's Keeper program, they give you up to $1 million, and it goes for that $1 million is for like a 2 to 3 to 4 year period, 5-year period. So where it's like $200,000 a year to implement boys mentoring programs in the school system. So that doesn't mean you have to have a mentoring program in every school. You may have satellites where on a Saturday morning, you have like some schools like in Buffalo, they have what is called Saturday Academy. So on Saturday Academy, you may have certain schools that may have the mentoring program, and boys from all over the city can come to that school for the mentoring program. So, I mean, there's so many different ways you can implement these programs, but the thing is, the schools aren't applying, and when they do apply, they're not implementing the money the way it's supposed to be implemented to these programs for our young men. So if you are in any school district, you can check to see if your school got the money, and if they did get it, find out why there's no mentoring programs in your school district or in your community where boys can go. And if they did not apply and it's needed, find why they have not applied. But again, going to school board meetings and council meetings and different meetings in your community to find out how our communities are being affected and how our young men are being targeted or assisted, that is what's requirement. So let's talk about the future of Black boys. That's what we're doing. That's what we did. Again, I just wanted to go through this. I normally go about 35 minutes. I'm at 42, so I'm going to cut it short. But I want to talk about this because this is very, very, very important, especially for our young men that are going into middle school and high school. And like I said, there is such a need for hygiene and nutrition and self-esteem and conflict resolution and mentoring programs in the schools with our young men, because they're having so many problems with conflict and hygiene and nutrition. So again, my name is Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Yolanda, I'm going to be in touch with you because I really want you to come on and share some information with us and help us to address these issues, not with just boys, but with boys and girls, because you're a teacher. You can help us to understand how we can help our young people to live a better you lifestyle. You guys have a blessed day and have a week, and see you next Sunday, Financially You, where we're going to talk about the stock market, because Yolanda wants to talk about the stock market. We're going to talk about the stock market because the stock market is hot right now, and it's a great opportunity to get into the stock market and start to generate and create wealth for yourself. You guys have a blessed day, and I will see you next week.